Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Detachment is not indifference. It is power disguised as stillness. When the world rages, when people claw for your reaction, when chaos begs you to join, detachment is the refusal to hand them your strings. The law of detachment teaches that control is not about gripping tighter. It is about letting go of what you cannot bend and mastering what you can. A man obsessed with control over everything loses himself to fear. A man who detaches loses nothing. He stands in the fire without being burned because he is not chained to the outcome. Detachment does not mean you care less. It means you refuse to be owned by what you care about. That is the first mark of strength others will never understand until they see you unshaken by storms that collapse them. There is a secret in every battlefield. The one who panics first loses. The one who clings desperately loses. The one who detaches from fear of loss, from hunger for victory, from the noise of emotion, gains the vision to see clearly. Detachment sharpens decision-making because you are not blinded by attachment to one outcome. You see the board as it is, not as you want it to be. This is why generals, leaders, warriors, and visionaries always practiced detachment, even if they never gave it that name. They knew that desire can cloud judgment and fear can corrupt execution. To detach is not to retreat. To detach is to see reality without distortion. Every attachment comes with a leash. You may not notice it at first, but eventually you will feel the pull. Attachment to people, to validation, to possessions, to identities. Each one claims ownership of your state of mind. You feel joy when they respond, despair when they withdraw, and anxiety when they do not meet your expectations. In this way, attachments own you more than you own them. Detachment cuts the leash. You can still love, still build, still enjoy, but you are not enslaved by the result. That is liberation few taste because they confuse detachment with coldness. It is not coldness. It is clarity. Think of the man who loses his fortune and collapses. His identity was attached to wealth, so when wealth vanished, so did he. Then look at the man who loses the same fortune but remains composed. He knows he is not wealth. He knows he is the builder, not the building. That is detachment. It is the refusal to confuse what you have with who you are. This law makes you untouchable because nothing external can destroy what is internal. The more you practice it, the less the world can use its weapons against you. Detachment creates leverage in every relationship. People expect you to beg, to need, to cling. When you do not, you shift the balance. The one who needs less holds more power. This is not manipulation. It is simply truth. Detachment makes you valuable because it makes you rare. In a world of desperation, a calm presence is magnetic. The detached man does not chase, he attracts. He does not bend for approval because approval is not his currency. His currency is self-command, and people cannot resist what they cannot control. To practice detachment, you must train the mind to release the illusion of permanence. Nothing you have today is guaranteed tomorrow. Detachment is the art of living with that awareness and still walking forward unbroken. You will lose people. You will lose opportunities. You will lose seasons of your life. But if you detach from the illusion that anything external is permanent, you never lose yourself. The law of detachment protects you from despair because you are not built on shifting ground. You are built on what cannot be taken. A detached mind is not unfeeling. It is disciplined. It feels fully but does not drown. It grieves but does not collapse. It celebrates but does not cling. Detachment is balance without weakness. It allows you to stand present with emotion yet remain unruled by it. This is the highest form of power because the man who can feel without being controlled by feeling is unshakable. He does not need to suppress. He simply refuses to be captured. That refusal makes him untouchable in a world where everyone is baited by reaction. Consider how much energy is lost in obsession with outcomes. People cling to results they cannot guarantee. They suffer before failure arrives. They tremble before rejection is given. Detachment erases this waste. You still act, but you act without clinging. You still pursue, but you pursue without fear of loss. In this way, you gain endurance because nothing drags you down. You play the game harder than anyone else because you are not terrified of the score. Detachment is what allows relentless action without emotional collapse. Detachment is not about leaving life. It is about entering it fully without chains. You can only master your craft if you are detached from the fear of failure. You can only lead if you are detached from the hunger for approval. You can only love deeply if you are detached from the need to own. The paradox is that detachment frees you to live more, not less. You become untangled, unburdened, free to give everything because nothing has the power to cage you. Ancient warriors lived under the weight of a truth most have forgotten. Complexity does not make you powerful. Simplicity does. They stripped their lives to the bare minimum because anything beyond the essentials was weakness disguised as comfort. Food to fuel the body, steel to protect and conquer, breath to sustain life. That was enough. When you live with less, you carry less. When you strip life to its core, you remove the hooks the world can use to pull you apart. A man who depends on many things is fragile. A man who depends only on his will, his purpose, and what he can carry is untouchable. Detachment begins when you realize addition does not strengthen you. It fattens you until the first strike splits you open. Subtraction, however, makes you lean, sharp, and dangerous. The simplicity of warriors was not an accident. It was discipline. They knew every unnecessary desire could become an opening for the enemy. If your survival depends on luxuries, you are already defeated before the blade touches you. Detachment means you cut until only what is vital remains. The less you cling to, the less you can lose. The less you can lose, the more dangerous you become. Imagine facing a man who has nothing left to protect except his purpose. You cannot bribe him. You cannot tempt him. You cannot bend him with fear. The man who has stripped his life to essentials becomes impossible to break because nothing external holds power over him. The modern world deceives you into thinking that more is better. More possessions, more validation, more distractions. But every addition is a chain. Each new dependency is another way to collapse you when it is removed. Ancient warriors understood subtraction creates strength because it closes the doors others can use to invade. When you have only breath, food, steel, and purpose, the enemy cannot cut deeper. You already carry nothing extra. They cannot take away what does not exist. Detachment is this principle made flesh. It is subtraction until all that remains is unshakable. Consider how subtraction affects fear. Fear thrives on attachment. You fear losing what you hold. You fear failure when your identity clings to success. You fear rejection when your worth clings to approval. Subtract these attachments and fear dies. If all you carry is your purpose, and all else can be stripped without breaking you, what can intimidate you? Detachment burns away fear by removing the hooks it clings to. The less you need, the more fearless you become. The more fearless you become, the harder you are to stop. Warriors knew this. That is why they trained themselves to carry little, to live lean, to need almost nothing. It was not poverty, it was power. Purpose becomes the ultimate anchor when everything else is cut away. Ancient warriors were not driven by possessions. They were driven by survival, honor, victory. That purpose did not depend on fragile things. It lived inside them untouchable. Detachment today means the same. When you live only for your purpose, The world cannot bribe you with shiny illusions. It cannot break you with temporary loss. The man who detaches stands centered in his mission, no matter how much chaos surrounds him. That is why subtraction is not emptiness. It is focus sharpened into steel. Subtraction is discipline in motion. It forces you to confront how much of your life is clutter. The clothes you never wear, the relationships that drain more than they give, the goals that belong to someone else's expectations, the endless noise that fills your head. Each one seems small, but together they bury your purpose. Detachment demands you strip them out. You subtract not to live with less, but to finally see what matters. When only your essentials remain, life gains weight again. Every action becomes deliberate. Every step moves toward your mission. Nothing leaks out into distractions. Warriors taught through action, not words. When they stripped their lives, they revealed the blueprint for freedom. Detachment is not a modern invention. It is an ancient law rediscovered. You want to be unbreakable, then you must need less. The moment you cut the unnecessary, you realize how little you require to live, to fight, to win. You realize most of what you thought you needed was noise built to keep you soft. Subtract it, and you stand taller. Subtract it, and you carry only the weight worth carrying. The man who has mastered detachment becomes terrifying to others. He is unpredictable because he cannot be cornered. He is dangerous because he does not flinch at loss. He is free because he has already subtracted everything but his mission. Others cannot understand him. They call him distant, cold, impossible. But the truth is he is alive in a way they have never felt. He has no leash. He has no master. He has no chains. His subtraction has made him whole. Impulse is the voice of the primitive brain. It screams for immediate satisfaction, quick reaction, and short-term comfort. Detachment is the discipline of stepping back, the pause that says no to the urgency of instinct. Every time you make that pause, every time you resist the immediate pull, you are not just making a choice, you are reshaping the architecture of your brain. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning, self-control, and vision, grows stronger with each act of resistance. Detachment is not philosophy alone, it is biology in action. To detach is to train the very structure that separates man from animal. Each pause is a repetition. Each refusal is a weight lifted. Each calm decision is a layer of steel added to your mind. The mind is not static. It is a battlefield of two forces. The limbic system pulls you toward impulse, survival, and craving. The prefrontal cortex pulls you toward clarity, strategy, and restraint. Detachment strengthens one while quieting the other. When you detach, you build neural circuits that make future detachment easier. It is training, not talent. The first step back may feel impossible. The second feels slightly easier. The 100th becomes natural. This is why detachment must be practiced relentlessly. Every time you resist the lure of impulse, you carve a deeper path for control. The brain begins to favor restraint over reaction. That is how self-mastery is built, not in abstract thought, but in physical rewiring. Impulse enslaves because it promises quick relief. Food when you are bored, anger when you are challenged, indulgence when you are uncertain. But the relief is temporary, and the cost is permanent. Detachment is the refusal to be a slave to the chemical surge. It is seeing the wave rise inside you and refusing to drown in it. Each time you do this, the brain learns. It recognizes that it can survive without giving in. The craving fades, the urge dissolves, and the control grows. The power of detachment compounds like interest. Each decision is a deposit in the bank of control. Years of deposits create a fortress. Those who never practice detachment remain fragile because their prefrontal cortex is untrained. The first storm shatters them. Think of soldiers in training. Their muscles ache, their bodies strain, but every rep builds the ability to endure war. Detachment is the same, except the war is inside the mind. Every impulse resisted is a drill. Every urge denied is a rep. You may not see the change at first, but the brain is adapting with every choice. Over time, the prefrontal cortex becomes the commander rather than the limbic system. That shift is transformation. That shift is mastery. This is why detachment is not weakness. It is strength forged through biological effort. Those who scoff at it are simply unwilling to do the training. Detachment transforms decision-making. When impulse controls you, every choice is reactive. You lash out, you give in, you surrender without thought. But when the prefrontal cortex is trained, choices expand. You see not just the moment, but the future. You weigh not just the desire, but the consequence. Detachment gives you time, and time gives you vision. In that vision, you find the ability to rule yourself rather than be ruled. The brain becomes your ally instead of your jailer. The same circuits that once enslaved you begin to serve you. Biology reveals why detachment feels unnatural at first. The limbic system is older, faster, more primal. It acts before thought. But the prefrontal cortex, though slower, is more powerful when trained. Detachment is the practice of forcing the slower, wiser part of the brain to take command. At first, it feels like wrestling a beast. Over time, the beast submits. That submission is the birth of clarity. Without detachment, the beast controls the man. With detachment, the man controls the beast. This battle is not abstract. It is written in neural pathways, strengthened or weakened with every act of resistance. The modern world weaponizes impulse. Companies, media, and systems design triggers to keep you reactive. Notifications, advertisements, endless temptation. Each one bypasses your prefrontal cortex and feeds on your limbic cravings. Detachment is rebellion against this design. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you are reclaiming ownership of your mind from those who seek to own it. Detachment builds sovereignty because it makes you immune to manipulation. The man who can detach cannot be baited, cannot be bought, cannot be controlled. His brain is his fortress, not their playground. Each moment of detachment strengthens the same skill required for greatness. Athletes must detach from fatigue. Leaders must detach from pressure. Artists must detach from fear of failure. All mastery is built on the ability to step back from impulse and act with intention. This is why detachment is a literal workout for the brain. It is the training ground for greatness in every domain. Without it, talent collapses under pressure. With it, even the untalented can rise through endurance. Detachment makes the mind durable, and durability wins wars. The beauty of detachment is that it requires nothing external. You do not need wealth, status, or tools. You only need the discipline to pause. That pause is the seed of transformation. With enough pauses, the seed becomes a forest. Your brain changes. Your life changes. The same situations that once controlled you now bow to your control. Detachment builds this silently, decision by decision, until you realize one day that you are no longer the same man who used to be ruled by impulse. You have become something sharper, calmer, unshakable. From the moment you are born, the system begins to train you. It whispers that your worth is tied to what you own, what you wear, what you display. Every screen you look at, every street you walk down, every conversation you overhear carries this message. You are not told to pursue wisdom, depth, or mastery. You are told to pursue objects, status, and symbols. Society engineers you like a machine built for consumption, and you are rewarded only when you perform as designed. It is not an accident, it is architecture. Entire industries thrive on your dependence. If you need, they win. If you detach, they starve. This is why detachment is not just a personal act of discipline. It is rebellion against a structure designed to own you. When you chase consumer desires, you are not free. You are enslaved to cycles of want and relief, always reaching for the next object to soothe a need that never ends. The system thrives on this loop. It knows satisfaction dies quickly, and the emptiness that follows will send you crawling back for the next purchase. In this way, society keeps you distracted. While you chase another device, another brand, another image, your time slips away. Your focus, the most valuable currency you own, is spent on chasing illusions. Detachment severs this leash. It allows you to see the trap for what it is. When you detach, the endless carousel of desires begins to lose its power. The mechanics of this trap are psychological. Marketers do not sell you a product. They sell you identity. They whisper that without this object, you are incomplete. They implant scarcity, urgency, envy. And it works because when your mind is cluttered with attachments, you mistake possession for meaning. Detachment clears the fog. It reminds you that you are not what you buy. You are not the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the device in your hand. You are the one who decides. Detachment gives you that authority back, and once you reclaim it, you become immune to the games that hold others hostage. Immunity is the right word because society functions like a virus that infects the mind. It needs hosts. It needs people who believe more is always the answer. It feeds on their dissatisfaction. Detachment is the vaccine. Each time you refuse to chase what you do not need, you strengthen your resistance. Each time you deny the bait, your system adapts. The virus weakens because it cannot control you. Immunity is not isolation. You can still participate in society. You can still enjoy. But you are no longer manipulated. You are no longer engineered. You see the architecture and step outside of it. That is what makes detachment dangerous to the system. Consider how powerful you become when you detach. You no longer bleed money into distractions. You no longer waste time chasing shallow validation. You no longer shape your life around things that fade within months. This does not make you less. It makes you more. Your resources, your energy, your vision become concentrated on what actually matters. You stop living as a consumer and begin living as a creator. The system cannot control a man who builds his own meaning. That man is untouchable because he cannot be bought, and he cannot be baited. Detachment is subtraction, and in a world addicted to addition, subtraction becomes the highest form of wealth. When you need less, you own more of yourself. When you detach from the endless race of consumer desire, you discover how little is required to live with clarity. Food, shelter, breath, purpose. Everything else is garnish. The less you need, the freer you are. This is why detachment is feared. It exposes the lie that happiness requires accumulation. It shows that happiness requires liberation. Society will never encourage detachment. It cannot. The system collapses if people stop consuming. That is why every force around you pushes for more. More upgrades, more trends, more debt, more distractions. But every time you detach, you grow immune. You stop serving the system and start serving yourself. Your time becomes your own. Your focus becomes sharper. Your purpose becomes louder. Immunity is not given. It is earned through repeated refusal to be played. Detachment trains this refusal until it becomes instinct. Every empire falls the same way. It stretches, consumes, and demands more until it cracks. Consumer society is no different. It fattens people on distractions until they are too numb to resist. But those who detach escape the collapse. They are leaner, sharper, and untouchable. When the system fails, they still stand, because they were never dependent on it to begin with. Detachment creates survivors, and survivors become builders of the next order. Identity is not inherited, it is forged. And like every forge, the fire is detachment. Each time you step back from what tries to own you, you hammer a new link in the chain of who you are. Every refusal to bow, every decision to let go of what weakens you, every moment you choose clarity over impulse. Those are hammer strikes. You are not simply existing. You are shaping steel. Weak men cling because clinging feels safe. They wrap themselves in possessions, approval, comfort, and mistake those things for a foundation. But when the fire comes, their grip burns. The forge does not reward those who cling. It rewards those who endure the strike. Detachment is not loss. It is transformation, each blow creating a link stronger than the last. The process of detachment follows a rhythm. Heat, strike, cool. A sword is not made by accident. It is made through cycles of destruction and renewal. You heat the metal until it glows. You strike it until it changes shape. You cool it until it hardens.